of December 2024 Parks and Recreation meeting. Roll call, Mr. Sharris, can you do the roll call for us, please?
Certainly. Wade Pollock.
Here.
Peter Lake.
Here.
Caitlin Foy is not present. Joseph Catrombone is not present. Rose Vanicolo.
Then we'll have a moment of silence. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Item 4.1, consider approving the agenda. Do we have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Motion was made by member Vanicola and seconded by member Lake. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Item 5, public comment for agenda items only. No members of the public are here. Item 6.1, consider approving the minutes from November 7, 2024 meeting. Do we have a motion? A second?
Second.
Motion was made by member Vanicola and seconded by member Lake. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item 7.1, Public Works update. Mr. Sharris, please.
Certainly. A brief update because November is traditionally all leaf collection all the time for Public Works, but we still got out to all the parks and the trails at least twice a week just to inspect and to check everything and to pick up the trash. At Drexel Lodge Park, right after Thanksgiving, we always close the restrooms down, have to drain all the pipes, take the fixtures apart, change the locks on the restroom because there are teams with keys out there. So we change the locks again and we shut the restrooms down. And then in the spring, we reopen them up again. The Gable Park restrooms do stay open during the winter because that's next to a heated building. So the pipes wouldn't freeze. At a Drexel Lodge, they would freeze. And the pipes have actually frozen in the past coming from this Westchester Pike up to that building. So we have to drain the whole pipe. That's why we shut those restrooms down. I'll just reference, although they're not technically parkland, but I always share with you what's going on at the historical sites that are township property. The Bartram Bridge property, some of the structural rehabilitation work has started. The stonework, the stone piers are in the process of getting pointed and repaired at this time. So if you happen to stop out there, you would see work going on at the bridge. And then at the paper mill house, the roof replacement project is going on now. So again, if anybody goes out for recreation to either of those sites and they see the work going on, that's what's going on. There was one tree that came down at Drexel Lodge, half a tree, one of the pine trees along Westchester Pike came down. We cleaned that up during the month of November. And that's really it from Public Works for the month of November.
Great. Thank you, George. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Yes. I don't know that our residents realize how much effort your team puts into taking care of everything in our township. And you do a great job.
Yep. It's a good place to live.
Yes, there's George and his team and others.
Yep.
New business, item 8.1, discussion and possible action regarding the addition of a memorial bench and plaque at the Meadow Preserve. So there was a woman who unfortunately lost her son at a young age. He was in a car accident, passed away in the accident. So she has a vision of putting a memorial bench at the Meadow Preserve and a plaque dedicated to her son. So Erin has the picture of the bench itself. It's a rather nice bench. I believe it's stone. And it's quite an expensive piece. It has like an Asian flair to it. it's a very heavy piece.
So you don't have to chain it down.
I wouldn't think so. And then I think the location that they've discussed is Paul Seligson, from the Business Association has been involved with this as well. They've discussed there's a farmhouse, if you're down in the preserve, there's some type of farmhouse all the way, I guess it's to the northwest section of the Meadow Preserve. If you look up, it's below that is where they wanted to put it. Originally, they proposed a lighter bench that wouldn't require much effort to put in, but given the weight of this thing, I think George has looked at it, and we're talking about possibly putting stone in or some kind of smaller foundation so that it doesn't sink into the ground.
Yeah, so if I could share some detail with it,
Okay.
when this request had first come in, I think Mr. Seligson had met with the township manager about the possibility. It was first envisioned by them to be a wooden bench, and it was going to go down in that location in the Meadow Preserve, with the understanding that when the master plan was implemented, it's something that could be moved with relative ease if necessary, if it didn't fit in with, you know, how the trail system and the various lookouts and those kind of things were going to be installed there. Now that it has changed to a stone bench, and I looked up the specifications on this, it's about 500 pounds, this bench, which, you know, is going to require a foundation. And so we're not as comfortable with it being in the location that they had wanted it to be down there, because one, getting access to it to install it, and then bringing out materials for a foundation. And then once you have a foundation, when the master plan is implemented, the ability to move it is going to be complicated. So our thought and our recommendation to Park and Rec for your consideration and for the Board of Supervisors consideration would be, perhaps if it needs to be a stone bench with a foundation, maybe it should be more at the entrance to the Meadow Preserve, where an outlook is kind of being built now, where the parking area is going. Again, it's not within the preserve, but it's at an area where something more permanent like that would probably be appropriate and actually able to be built by staff.
When I originally spoke with Paul Seligson about this project, that's where we discussed putting it originally, so that you could overlook the Meadow Preserve, and it's a beautiful spot.
Right.
I don't think there's any chance someone stealing this thing, so I think it's a great spot for it. Now, would that require a foundation as well there then?
Well, we're already doing the work. We're already doing foundation work for the parking spaces. There's going to be a accessible parking space built that has a separate need for a foundation and actual asphalt pavement on it, not just the gravel parking area that we're building now. So it is a logical place to build a foundation for it. Something like this without a proper foundation is going to sink into the ground.
Right.
And because there's not a lot of level area within the preserve itself, you know, without a foundation, we would not want to run the risk of it tipping. So yeah, I think an overlook area near the parking area that you could look out over the preserve is somewhere we could build a foundation and have a more permanent fixture like this.
And you wouldn't have to walk down. You could just get out of your car and go sit.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And again, I'm aware that it's not what Mr. Seligson had discussed with the township manager originally, and probably not discussed with you, Wade, originally.
Yeah, I don't remember such a big piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant change having a stone fixture like this that would need a foundation built for it.
How deep would that foundation?
I would run the specifications on it. I would check with the code department and build it to whatever,
Sure.
whatever they said. But I mean, 500 pounds pushing against just two pedestals like that. We'd want to make sure it was totally safe and
Exactly.
permanent. I think the original intention had been that one would be fabricated, replicating the designs used at Chanticleer up in kind of Radnor area.
Mhm.
But I guess that turned out not to be possible, and they selected this one, so.
Do you like it, Rose?
Yeah, it's artistic.
And they had discussed putting a plaque in there as well. So we assumed, when I spoke with Paul, he assumed it would be a brass type plaque and it would just be a dedication to the son. I don't think it's going to be in great detail or anything like that. It's just going to mention a memorial to that.
Bench part?
I think it would be a standalone piece.
Oh.
I don't think it would be on the bench itself.
Yeah,
That's
just
my-
maybe in the
that's my
flowers.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, I like it and I think it would be an enhancement to the park. And if it's not an impact to the master plan going forward, then
Mhm. And the positioning up on the top near the parking makes sense.
yeah, when you get back from the walk, hell, you
Yeah.
might want to sit.
Everybody wants
I
to
know
sit
I
on
want-
it. I know. Climbing up that hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we should vote and make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Right. So do we have a motion to install the, what is it called?
Mom's bench to her son.
There's-
Memorial.
Okay. A motion to install the memorial bench at the Meadow Preserve at the parking lot overlooking the Meadow Preserve, and a brass plaque in dedication to the woman's lost son.
Mhm.
Second,
Second.
motion was made by Member Venicola and seconded by Member Lake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 8.2, discussion of possible action regarding Parks and Recreation input on the proposed pickleball court on Alice Grimm Boulevard. So there's a company that's going to put in and we have a diagram of what this is going to look like. The Boron building, the distribution center that was approved by the supervisors. This is going to, I guess, the east side of that building on Alice Grimm Boulevard. And I looked at it and, looked at a compass and that kind of stuff, and it looks like it's laid out properly for the way they should be laid out as far as the sun. You don't want the sun in your eyes on
Right.
either side, so
Right.
it's to the correct side of this.
So it's facing north, south.
Exactly, yes, I'm sorry.
Where is it exactly? Right up?
Yes,
Point to it.
up in the. Can you zoom in on it,
upper-
Erin, at all, or?
Oh, I see it. I see it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Ah,
The Boron Distribution Center is just to the right of that.
okay.
And my understanding is it's up on a hill a little bit, so it'll be raised up somewhat. So the Boron building, I assume, would cover a lot of the noise that would hit most of Phillips Lane. We take care of any kind of noise going there, but I mean, you're pretty far away. It's almost 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet.
You're not going to hear much.
Most of those homes.
Like ping pong ball.
And what's the other road there? one that, where the pizza shop is, or between SAP and the pizza shop, that road, those homes are pretty far away from it. And there's, you know, a lot of vegetation in there. So I don't think noise would be an issue for any neighbors involved. I did go out there and look. I did look on Google Maps and tried to see where the houses were. It's at least 1,000 feet away from the nearest. But they don't have any detailed plan as far as vegetation or landscaping and that kind of stuff that they probably should have. So I think EAC is speaking to that point. But one of the things I was concerned about is this going to be for mainline neighbors only? Or some of the, you know, our residents who are, you know, are elderly, there's a lot of elderly people that play this game. Are they going to have access to it because they might be priced out? Recreation there. So I was going to send a letter in to the Board of Supervisors or the Planning Commission or both, or speak at one of them and address that concern that you know, can Rich now run a league there, perhaps, so that our residents have access to it at some reduced rate? Or can you have designated times that residents could use it? So that would only be a recommendation. We can't, there's nothing binding that we can do, but we can make recommendations to that company that's installing this.
So there'd be a charge if you wanted to use this? You'd have
It's
to
a
pay.
commercial
Oh,
Yeah,
endeavor.
it's a privately operated,
oh, okay.
you know, sports facility.
Yeah.
And you're right. My understanding, and again, I'm not an expert in the land development and in those things, but you know, my understanding is yes, this board can certainly make some comments and recommendations to the board with it. I don't think something like that would be, you know, binding on them, but it's the discussion is good.
It can't hurt to speak up for our residents now rather than somewhere down the road.
Who's the company that's installing it? Who owns it? Or who would own it? You know?
I remember, it might be on the presentation itself. I think it's a sports related company that does this type of work.
Gotcha.
Right.
So,
They're well used.
yeah.
Yeah, the bocce ball courts are well used.
On the weekends, I went over with two of my grandkids and rode our bikes over and there were people waiting.
Yeah, more and more often, folks who do, besides the leagues that, you know, Richie now has a couple leagues that he runs, and then Dunwoody still makes use of them as well. More and more, though, folks who rent the pavilion for birthday parties and things like that specifically ask about utilizing both the horseshoes and the bocce ball courts.
Good.
And there's other times you just see people playing there, you
Right.
know, that there was no scheduled and they're allowed to. That's great.
But so I guess we should make a motion, or we,
I mean, if you want to make a motion or a recommendation to provide some of your thoughts to the Board of Supervisors for consideration, I think
Okay.
that's,
is there any other concerns? Do you have any? Pete?
No.
So do we have a motion to make recommendations to have access for our residents at a reduced rate and for contacting Rich Enel from Marple Recreation for a league access to the facility of the proposed pickleball court on Alice Grimm Boulevard? In a second,
Second?
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 8.3, discussion and possible action regarding suggestions for another Eagle Scout project. So Carlo, who is going to be coming up for his Eagle Scout award or final, project, has contacted George and us about possibly doing a project in one of the parks.
And there is actually another scout that has since also reached out about an
Oh, wow.
upcoming Eagle project. So
Wow.
as you're having your discussions, there's actually two scouts in the wings that are asking for recommendations from
Oh,
Park and
great.
Rec.
So I don't know if you guys have any recommendations for the parks. One thing I threw out was that there's no communication board at Brookside and Gable Park. So that's something that he seemed interested in, but that we're just throwing this stuff out now. So I don't know if you have any ideas.
Yeah, that is.
Brookside always seems to get left. It's a very active park. The playground is just constant, full of people. So, it might be a good chance for communication regarding events and stuff going on in the township. So I guess, we can put this on the agenda again in January. We don't necessarily need to vote on it tonight.
Yeah,
Just
and
everybody-
we'll think about
Yes,
some
yes.
things, some directions.
And I'll send out separate emails to Caitlin and Joe, just to let them know that there's some Eagle Scout projects. We'll be discussing it in public at our January meeting.
And when you say, when you talk about communication boards, you're speaking about a board that you could have postings and information about? Or are you talking about the communication boards like were done here at Gable and Brookside and Drexel Lodge that were message boards helping children with the pictures on them that they could point to if they need help
No, I was
communicating?
talking communication like the one at Drexel Lodge Park that has, the flyers in it for events and that. kind of
Gotcha.
stuff.
Oh, you have two parks, right? So you have both boys do one, see which one comes out better. Have a competition.
I would hope that they could mimic somehow the existing communication boards, the other parks, so that we're kind of uniform.
Yeah, agreed. And just for your information, there's actually a third scout that's working on a project right now with birdhouses. He's a scout from a different troop in Broomall, and we have put him in contact more with the EAC and their bird town efforts, so that he's looking to build birdhouses, put maybe a handful along a trail or something, and then work with the EAC in Birdtown to distribute the rest of them, the residents, for their homes.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Over at our church, Springton Lake Presbyterian, we had one Eagle Scout build one of those like wooden, and you have a ball and you just I forgot what it was called, but it was, have you ever seen that?
I know what you're talking about. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think what it's called, but
Yeah, I
I've
just can't
seen
remember,
those.
but they had to grade it, they had to build, get all the wood. And the fathers helped, obviously. I was there too. Shovels. But it was that's the kids love it over there. They're in good weather, they're out there just banging the ball around. It's like a little playground ball, and you just you try to make the other kid.
A tetherball?
No, it's not a ground. It's about, it's just a big octagonal, about this high. Yeah, you should come over and look at it. I forgot what it was called.
Well, and we do have, obviously, we've got two scouts now that have asked, and there's usually each year, there's at least, one or two that ask us about Eagle projects. So whatever ideas the Park and Rec comes up with, I mean, even if they're not used by, by Carlo or Will, then they could be shelved and kind of be ready for future scouts that might come along.
So it sounds like we better get our thinking caps on there, huh?
Yep.
So old business, item 9.1, discussion about family community events in spring 2025. So one of the things that we discussed was having movies in the park. So I did make contact with there's a township up in Bucks County somewhere that does movies, and I contacted their chairperson for Parks and Recreation. Got some information from them, and then I reached out to, apparently you have to have a license. You can't just get your VHS tape, show it in the park and call it a day. You know, the world we're living in today, you need a license, so you have to have approval from the movie, whoever produced the movie to show it. And originally I thought it was fairly reasonable. It's $395 per movie for 200 people or less. So I would estimate that that's where the ballpark that we would be in, 200 people or less. So it'd be $395 per movie, and we would have to purchase or rent the equipment to show it. Now I have a sound system I could bring in myself, and the projector is $100 to $200, believe it or not.
Wow.
Not that expensive. And then the blow up screen, you could spend up to $400 on it's a blow up screen. It comes with a fan and
Fills it up like the
Yeah.
Santa Claus is out
yeah, and they go anywhere from 20 feet to 33 feet. So I think we discussed drive-in versus sit-down. I don't know that you could have a screen big enough for a drive-in type of showing. So
Would you limit
I,
it to 200?
I think that's about where we would be, you know, especially for the first showings. You know, typically we get, you know, our kids events, you know, the family fun day is another story because
Right.
it's daytime.
Yeah.
We're having people from outside the community come in. I mean, we could try and limit it somehow, or just do some kind of count, and then if it goes over, we would have to contact the company and let them know. But I'm assuming that we would be at 200 or less. So if we purchase the equipment, you know, it would, for one event, it would kind of make it significantly expensive.
Mhm.
If we had 3 movies, it would kind of reduce
That'd be
the
$1,000
overhead.
That'd be
cost involved.
$1,000 for the movies.
Yeah,
And which movies?
I think kids. What do you think? I think Joe and Caitlin probably know better than us.
So there are companies that come in and do it all for you.
Right.
And I don't know what that cost would be, but if you wanted to dip your toe in the water, maybe an idea would be to start with just having somebody come in and do it for you and see what kind of results you get.
Maybe, yeah.
And I did reach out to someone last year. It was astronomical.
Uh,
You-
10 years ago?
Yeah, years ago, yeah, but I don't know that you necessarily needed a license at that point. Yeah, now, you know, people are searching the internet for legal issues and, you
Mhm.
know, they're,
By the way.
yes, yes. So that was the one company. There's another company that does that. I didn't reach out to them. I assume they're about the same price, but just ballpark speaking, we're talking, you know, 1,000, up to 600 for the equipment. Something like that, and I don't know that, you know, if we start charging, we get the same turnout.
Yeah, probably.
So now we're looking at sponsorships, and I think, that, you know, we're not gonna do a concert, and we're always able to get about $1,600 for concert events. So I would assume that we would be able to get sponsorships equivalent to that. So it's, I mean, it is doable. I don't know. Then who's going to own the equipment? The township would have to own it. So I don't know that there's an issue there because then we're going to be donating it. So we might ask the township to purchase the equipment and then the sponsorships would pay for the movies.
Can you forward me the research you've done?
Yes,
With it, and
yes.
I'll take a look at the
Okay.
equipment and see
Okay.
what, you know, what we're looking at getting involved with on our end.
Okay. And then something else I thought of was that if we let the band or the football team or someone sell popcorn there and keep the proceeds from it, then we're not making money in our park selling food, going to a good organization. It's, so we might be able to get around having food and drink in the park that way. You know, given that the township is okay with that and Rich Sikora for, you know, legal counsel. So
And so this would be at night,
it would have to be at night.
and
It would have to be warm.
yeah, and it couldn't be raining.
So, you know, I guess we could have rain dates. And I don't know that if we did it at Drexel Lodge Park, we would have to do it down by the gazebo. The only other place I thought is the soccer field over here, where you're kind of contained in and you have people going in, it's easier to control.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to cause damage to the field.
Or if kids are gonna bring soccer balls and get bored with the movie and start kicking around,
Right.
wouldn't be good.
So they're the only two places I can think of. Do you guys think, can you think of anywhere else that we might be able to have? Considering we need parking.
Yeah, I mean, considering you would need parking and restrooms,
Oh, right.
we're probably really looking at either this site here somewhere or Drexel Lodge. Unless you wanted to start getting into renting portable for the night, but then your price is really going up.
$200 a night.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll do some more research. I'll reach out to this other company and I'll do some better research on the projector and the screen and then get back to you. And I'll forward that to George so he can start the process of seeing if the township is willing to invest the funds.
Yeah, I just, like the equipment, I want to take a look at what is involved with maintaining the equipment and keeping it, you know, keeping it up and running and, you know, what's involved with the blowers and the screen and all that, just so that we understand it.
Okay.
But I think it's an exciting idea.
Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah, it's worth a try. But if it doesn't take, then we're out a lot of money.
Yeah, that's why it
That's
would
a
be,
risk.
it would be nice to have a reasonable, you know, rental option to see if it's the kind of thing that somebody can come in and, you know, we're not committed to owning something that we
For 10
decide we don't
years,
want to
right.
use again.
Do we know anybody who could lend us their equipment? I mean, there must be somebody in the township.
so the library might have access to a projector. I don't think they'll have a screen, but they might have access to a projector.
Like this is a reel-to-reel projector, like the old ones.
No, everything's digital.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, so it's just like a unit, like one of these up here.
Yes,
All right.
yeah. And I think they actually rent the equipment. This company actually rents you the equipment if, so I'll get that option as well. I'll do some more research on.
Yeah.
And then as far as movies go, I think we're kind of looking at Disney, Despicable Me 4, maybe will probably be a good. Yeah. Then Rose and I have been having discussions with, what's his name, Rose? I'm sorry. Mike Massimo. Regarding the jazz band coming in and playing at Drexel Lodge Park in the spring.
Mhm.
So they, when did they?
After that. I got the impression that wasn't. You had said something. I don't know, I didn't get a great definite answer. from the
Yeah.
last email.
It's, he had concerns that the weather wouldn't be warm enough in the time frame that the band is still together. They disbanded in like April.
Mid-April.
So,
A
yeah,
lot of activity. No, I don't know. But he responded that, you wouldn't be displacing anybody,
right.
you know.
So I just mentioned the soccer leagues that are playing there. We might have to work with Rich Enow
Right.
to reserve the field for a short period of time. They would still have access for the soccer leagues. And, I think we're talking about a 3-hour window here.
Yeah, and again, at Drexel Lodge or at any of our parks, even if if an entity has a permit for it, the township always has the option of saying, we've got an event. The township's events always come first. Now, we usually, in the beginning of the season, give Rich Enow a set of dates that we want to have held for us. Even if we're not sure what the event's going to be, we put them in. So we can certainly do that if we have ideas on it. But even during the year, if something comes up, then he reaches out and says, okay, there's going to be something going on this time.
And I did kind of explain that to him that, no, I think he's kind of on the fence with it and it might be something he's not real keen on. But I think,
To get more of the.
Yes. right.
Was interest.
So I suggested that maybe if they used this event for a fundraising, by selling water and, snacks. And then have a bucket there, and then perhaps we even get a sponsor to donate up to $300, and we publish that out on the internet for matching funds, This company is going to give us $300, and they'll match up to $300 for people in the community who want to donate. So, we get $600, sell some drinks and food, and then, perhaps they could get $1,000. I think that's pretty significant for them. So I think we're still kind of bouncing it back and forth. And the person I was talking with as far as drama club goes, she actually is a homeschool student that does part-time at Marple, but she does her drama classes are at some other school, so it wasn't the high school. So I don't know if you can get us in contact with someone from the drama club to see if, and then we would do a split of, Aaron, do you know? I guess if you want to reach out to him, Rose, and just see me on it. Yeah, like, so usually they have a play they're working on, so maybe they could do one act.
Yeah.
And do the first act at the park before the band plays. And again, we would have to split the, whatever fundraising between the two organizations. I think there should be enough, interest from sponsorship and I don't have a problem knocking on doors and asking for help. I think Joe had brought up, so are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Joe had brought up Cub Scout, public service. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to think of, what they might be able to do. It's kindergarten through 5th grade. Is the age range that we're
Quite a
talking
spread.
about.
That's a big spread.
But again, they're not, in 5th grade, you're still not talking about strong people being able to build something.
Items.
I'm still working on that. I have to get, over to Galantino's. Ask them if they'll give us a reduced rate or possibly donate. So I guess we'll have to, think about the Cub Scout, and again, I'll send separate emails to Joe, both Joe and Caitlin, just saying, these are the items we'll be discussing in January, to just try and bring ideas that we can discuss in public without discussing them separately. Then we had discussed the hayride bonfire at Meadow Preserve. I think that's something we'll probably discuss further in the summer months, but I really like that idea. And then we also discussed having a mental health day, or just a health in general, family health event. So if anyone can think of, organizations, companies in the community that might be interested in that, or. Oh, yeah. There's a company on Westchester Pike that keeps reaching out, trying to be involved in the community, and they do, I think, rehab for children, physical therapy. I'm sure that we would probably contact the county, see, what they might offer. But again, it's December, and we're talking about spring 2025 and early summer for this stuff. So does anyone else have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I guess we're adjourned.